everyone. We made it to another episode of our AAPI month. Woo! I think we're 3 years into this, maybe 4. But having a lot of fun with these, and I love bringing new people on and introducing them to our little crowd that we going on here. And yeah, it's very exciting. Wow. I can't wait to talk to you because I actually invited you on last year at Motor City.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a year in the making. I know. Yeah, that's coming up this weekend too. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, literally been right.
Well, rather late than never.
That's right. That's right. I know we kind of went full last year. I think we streamed way too much for anybody in that one month. We did far too many streams.
Unless you've actually gone through it, like streaming takes energy and time, and
it's a lot. Yeah.
There's some simpler preconceptions that you're just hopping on. But
yeah, it's a lot of pre-work. I don't think people realize how long that takes. But then you're done. You're like nap time.
Well, and also just to be on. I mean, I used to stream a lot more, but then I started doing a lot more conventions, and then, man, I tell you, after a 3 or 4 day convention, and to try to hop on to a stream, you just can't do it.
No, you'll be completely just no energy. That's kind of how I feel today. Just energy is gone. Right. I was gonna walk to the store and I misplaced my wallet. And I was like, great stuff. But let's do some introductions though. I'm Katie here. Let's make it weird. We're gonna do it weird. We do a lineup. Hi, I'm Katie, K-pop. I do a lot of interviews and comic creator stuff on my channel. And yes, welcome on in here. We got Nam coming up next. There's Nam. Hi, Nam.
And this is a comic book worm. It's a worm. So
that's right. You can find him doing all kinds of miscellaneous stuff, including art streams. Yeah. I think my favorites when you're just testing stuff out.
I'm sorry, fellow Asian Americans, you are represented by the worm.
Nice.
Welcome.
Before we get welcome to the chat. I know we're gonna be a little geeking out today. I think because we're all kind of like super tired. How that works. I'm gonna go down the list of people in chat. We got GT Key Comics all the way from 1:27 p.m. What is up, GT Key Comics?
Hey, GT
right here. I have this pinned. This is a link to go read your webtoons for the 4:40 2nd. So yeah, go check that out there. We got Berdazzle in the house. What's up?
Big screen.
Yeah. We got Michael. What's up, Michael? How are you guys doing?
Hello.
We got Nam is in the house. What's up, Nam? Welcome in.
Hey, who's that worm?
He's that guy. That's this guy right there. We got Phil in the house. What's up, Phil? How are you guys doing? Oh, not only just P2, we got Phil. Welcome on in. And Angels of the Renaissance. Yes. Manga is acceptable here. All forms of art are acceptable here. We accept them all. That's right.
Manga is comic book. Manga is comic book.
Yes. Well, you're definitely going to read that. Yes. Thank you. Please. Yes. Please, by all means, go click on that and read that. It's quite lovely. I was actually reading it before you hopped on here, and the art just phenomenal. I really do love it, and I love the story that's behind it. And we're going to get to our guests. So let me go bloop. There you are. There's Tony.
Hi,
Tony. Hi. How are you?
My name is Tony Moy. I'm a watercolorist, comic artist, and now I guess writer. Worked on a variety with a variety of publishers. I've worked on like titles like X-Files, Dungeons and Dragons. Did some stuff for Marvel Snap most recently. Worked on working on trying to get rid of this cough. So I apologize beforehand. And currently, my big passion project is about the Japanese American segregated battalion that fought in World War II, who became the most decorated unit in U.S. history that no one's really honestly heard of. And if you have heard of them, you're of a special few. You're of a small percentage.
42nd.
Yeah, 442nd.
442nd.
Nice.
Okay.
Yes. No, it's very lovely. I first heard about it like when I met you at Motor City, because I was just familiar with your art as watercolor and also Twitch, because that's how I knew you many years ago. There. And I was like, oh, this is neat. I was like, this definitely needs to come on for an episode for when we do this, because I know Nam and everybody loves learning about these kind of things. So it's very exciting to have everybody on here. And
that's a very interesting. That
lots of hellos.
Now, hi, Angel. How do you go from? I mean, do you always had this wanting to go from artist to a writer?
I didn't. To be completely fair and honest, excuse me. I've done some writing in my time, but nothing ever on a large scale. I've done some minor stuff with short stories and worked with a lot of writers in the editing process, coming up with concepts and ideas, a lot of kind of conceptual editing stuff. But this is the first time I have taken it upon myself to put my writing out there kind of under my own name, which was kind of daunting. It's still disconcerting for me to be at a show and someone come up to me and go like, "Oh man, I really enjoy your writing." I'm like, "My writing? Like what did I write? Did I do a media post? Like what did, like I wrote a comic. I wrote several comics." And so it's still a new thing. Like it took me a while to, it took me a couple of years to, take compliments on my art. And like, oh, people like my art. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so it's kind of going through that same process with writing. I always thought that I would work with writers. And my goal was to sort of find an amazing story and work with a writer to tell it in art, in panels. I never realized I would stumble upon that story and that I would end up having to take it upon myself to write. You
also doing internal as well?
Everything. The only thing I have some help in is the editing process.
Oh, that's exciting. Kind of branching out and doing something you're not really familiar with, but it's been really fun reading about this. So I'm very
thank you.
Yeah.
The fun part is trying to find a process, because there's a lot of, I guess, tutorials or advice for writers trying to become writers and how to put their ideas together and everything else. But that doesn't, the one thing I find that where it doesn't match with me is that I am also very visual. And they say, oh, put an outline out and you write it all out and you just and get the descriptions out there and everything. But for me, the descriptions are visual, and it's quicker for me just to sketch out a thumbnail or a visual, and where I know what it is. That is a skill that writers who write and artists who art are on two different sides of that fence. But I have to find my own meandering path that goes back and forth. Like, okay, I'm just going to thumbnail and pencil this out because I know the scene in my head. I don't know what exactly they're saying yet, but if I pencil it out and lay out the thumbnails and the pages, then I can come back and figure it out, and then I can tweak it, and then I can go back and tweak the words. So it's this back and forth in my head.
It sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
But you just utilizing the Marvel method of making comic books.
Kind of. But it's a combination of the two. Like there are times when I just go directly like, oh, this I can hear the conversation back and forth. Like, oh, I have to write down this conversation between these two or three characters, and it's the conversation that will drive the panel layout. Like, okay, it's a really mundane panel layout, but the conversation, the words that I want to use, the metaphors and things like that, like I want to hit that. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know what's being said, but I do know the visual that I want to hit. It's like the beats, right? You try to find these beats. In some scenes, it's what the actor will say right? That was like, oh, that's a good line. And in some scenes, it's the visual camera work for the scene or the movie. And I realize that I have to hop back in between those and determine what is going to drive the scene. If I'm lucky, sometimes it's a good combination of the two. But most of the times it's me trying to figure out what side of my brain I want to live on.
That's it. I like that.
Really funny. As long as you don't complain about yourself. Who the heck drawn that?
There are times when I do, I'm like, who's the writer on this? Like, God, why do I have
like do this to myself? Yeah.
Yeah. I just did this long shot of the internment camps, and I have to do it from front. I'm like, I'm drawing all the little buildings. It's a long landscape shot, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Or it's happening in the rain, and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta paint it, but it's in the rain, and that's a challenge.
No.
So yeah, there are definitely some times when I am yelling at the writer.
Do you do one page at a time? I mean, does the one page has to be complete with all the dialogue and the writing, along with the art that has to be complete before you go to the next page, or do you lay it out first, or?
I structure it by scenes, and what I've found that works for me is right now I'm kind of taking a I enjoy a lot of movies, and I love how that process, like directors, right? They'll do a scene, and then maybe they'll shoot it a different way, and then they'll
storyboarding first.
Yeah, that's kind of they'll do various parts of it, and then they kind of leave some stuff in the cutting room floor. And since I'm painting it, there are definitely moments where I'm structuring it by scenes. Okay, I'm doing this scene. I have to keep certain colors consistent across the scene. So I'm also used to working on multiple pages while I wait for things to dry. So there's a lot of hopping back and forth across the scene, as well as kind of not knowing exactly what the final layout is going to be, because sometimes with watercolor, like, oh, that drip, okay, well, now I got to fit this drip in because that drip actually looked kind of cool, or there's a little bit of give and take with the watercolor, and that part of it. There are definitely some scenes, some pages, some panels where I'm like, oh, I really like how this panel turned out, so I'm going to make that panel larger. So I restructure everything at the end. It doesn't.
Oh my goodness!
Again, it's how my mind has kind of worked, and how I can adapt to painting. Sometimes it's really simple, so I'll just paint it kind of small, and sometimes it's complex, and I'll paint several things on the page. Like I'll do a background. Right. By the way, is my audio?
I'm hearing double audio now. Maybe somebody has something open in a tab, maybe.
I didn't change anything, but I will.
Yeah, it was fine up until like a second ago.
Let me put.
Let's see.
Is this better?
Hello.
Hello. You have to talk.
There's still a little bit delay, but it's still it sounds better.
It sounds better.
Yeah, I still think somebody might have a tab open. Maybe is that what's maybe going on?
I don't think I have any tab open. I do have open, but it's muted.
One of those things, but that's okay. We can hear you just fine. But I want to shout out a couple people that were talking about you for 1 second. Michael says he's never heard of that battalion. That's super interesting. Is that something that you kind of just stumbled upon, or did you kind of already know about the 442nd?
I had, up until exiting the pandemic, I had no idea that these men existed.
Wow. Okay.
And that was part of the impetus in trying to tell their story, because it was such a shock to me that a story of the most decorated unit of soldiers in U.S. history, who happened to be a minority that was actively being persecuted at the same time was shocking to me.
It's really interesting. You have a Chinese background, ethnic background, and you are.
He broke. I think what you're saying is I'm a Chinese background, but I'm representing a Japanese sort of story. And and specifically what you're referring to, in case people don't know, there's a very historical animosity between Japan and basically a lot of other Asian countries, right? Japan and Korea, there's no love there. Japan and China.
Korea and China. I mean, we all have
Korea and China. That whole triumvirate of animosity.
Yeah.
It did come across when I first started working on the project, before I kind of put it out there at shows and started talking to people on, and when I'm just in my studio, that was a thought that kind of came into my head, like, what will people think? Will they think that I'm taking advantage of a story that isn't mine? You know, will I do it justice? Everything else. But there is a great little story that I learned in my research of the 442nd. Basically, there was one Korean American on the 442nd. His name was his name was Young Ok Kim. He was a corporal. He was pretty high up. He had already been in the army, and he was told to report to Camp Shelby, which is where the 442nd went through training camp. This was relatively early on. And Young Ok Kim gets to this training camp, and he meets the commander of this training camp. And the commander calls him over, and they have a meeting, and the commander goes, "Hey, don't worry, Mr. Kim. I already put some paperwork together, and we'll have you moved and moved to another unit, because there's a white guy, but he was like, I know that Koreans and Japanese don't get along, so I don't know why they brought you here. I know that you're Korean. I know they're Japanese. So I got some paperwork, and you can go and command some other unit." And Young Ok Kim kind of looks at him and goes, "No, sir. Like, I'm exactly where I want to be. We're all American here."
All right.
So he was one of the corporals. He was one of the command leaders in the 442nd. And at first, they kind of made fun of him. They call him Yobo. They call him Yobo, stuff like that. You might know what that means.
Hello, yobo means like honey.
Yeah, he's like honey. They kind of like made fun of, like, "Oh, yobo." All the Japanese called him that. But then later on, they learned to respect each other, and he was a very respected leader within the 442nd. And
wow,
and
I'm falling in love with the story already.
Yeah, no. And so, like, when I learned of that particular story, I was like, when he said, like, "No, sir, we're all Americans here." I was like, you know what? This is American story. I'm an American, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So
yeah.
You froze one more time.
I was hinting at that. Hey, you shouldn't be representing Korean or Japanese or anything like that, right?
No, I know you weren't, but these are my own insecurities when I first started, because I knew of those things, right? There was Young Ok Kim actually is a very important character in the story, but he goes and talks to the Japanese Americans, and he's asking them kind of why are you fighting, like trying to rally them together a little bit, because some of them were causing trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I put this little bit of story together? He asked them why they were fighting, and they fought for many different reasons. And one of them was to fight for Japanese Americans, and fight for my family and whatever. And he told them, listen, the Americans, and by Americans, he meant white people, right? But that was kind of the slang that I had to kind of understand whenever I saw it in writing, was like, oh, the Americans will look at you and they won't be able to tell you apart. They'll look at me, I'm Korean and you're Japanese. They won't be able to tell us apart. So you're actually fighting for all Asian Americans, because to them, we're all the same.
Oh, cool. Yep.
Yeah, right. So hearing these stories from back in 1940s, I'm going, man, that hits a little bit as an Asian American. That only stumbled upon this story, right? I had never heard of these men before, never knew they existed.
Oh man, I wish Ryan Odagawa is here. Man, Ryan, if you hear this, if you're in the audience, you come on out.
Hop on, Ryan. Oh yeah, he would have loved this. And I love this too. We got more people popping in here, and I love Dan. First of all, Dan in here saying he's a huge fan of your watercolors. Yes, dude, your watercolors are absolutely phenomenal. And Dan is saying that he just recently studied the 442nd a couple of years ago in Asian American history too. It's quite lovely.
And unfortunately, it's a bit of Asian American history that's, according to the current administration, isn't important enough to keep on their websites. So they removed, mentions of them were removed. Okay, specifically the website that encompassed a lot of the 442nd, the medal winners, and everything else was removed.
Wow, that's too bad. That's unfortunate.
It's a single article.
Oh.
Yeah. So are you doing a lot of research yourself, right?
Yes, there's a lot of research on my own, but I've also been lucky enough during the process to stumble upon and meet up with a lot of other organizations that are also doing research, or that have put me in contact with people that know a lot more about this than I do. Right, from Hawaii, there's the 100th Veterans Organization. From Seattle, there's the Japanese American Veterans Organization, and a couple of different Japanese American museums have been very helpful.
Wow, I love that.
Curious. So, what front did these troops went to serve at the Asian front or the German front?
So they weren't allowed to fight in Japan or in the Pacific Front because they weren't trusted to fight against their own kind. Right. So they fought in Italy and in France.
Wow.
And so when the European theater concluded before the end of the Pacific War, many of them wanted to continue fighting, but they're like, no. Yeah, we can't.
You know what MASH is? TV show MASH?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, they had in this one episode. They had this Korean American that participated in Korean War, and he had a trauma because he had to go as American. He had to go kill other Koreans. But actually, in that war, he was kind of representing both American and South Korea because they wanted to defend South Korea. So it was kind of civil war, right? But
it was.
So the idea of sending like a Japanese American guys go out there and fight in the Pacific Front, that would have been really weird.
Yeah. They were involved in the Pacific Front, mostly as translators, code breakers, and interrogators. In fact, there are some really amazing stories where a Japanese American was interrogating Japanese prisoners and then going, hey, where are you from? What city? Did you go to this school? And then them realizing they went to the same school in Japan, because one of the things that would happen was they would get sent back when they were kids to go to school in Japan and then come back to the States. In fact, there are a few stories where a brother or a sister went back to Japan to study or to go to school, and their other brothers were here in the States, and then the war happened, so the family was split, and we're actually fighting on different sides.
Thank you. Wow, that had to been hard too, because you were probably really close knit with some people that maybe were in that small little area. So that would have been tough.
Yeah, some of those stories were heartbreaking. The Japanese prisoners, until they saw the Japanese American interrogator, and they learned they were from the same place, they started crying. And when interrogated, they go, "Why are you crying?" And it's like, "Oh, well, now we know that there's a chance that we might live," because they were so kind of afraid of what the alternatives were.
Yeah, that's really hard. Dang, that got me all. Yeah.
There are times during this process of research, of writing, of creating art, where you have to kind of put your mind in a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Especially as you just from the visual side, just rotating things around your head. From the writing side, just trying to figure out how would a person in a camp express themselves, right? And there are moments when I have to step away. I'll be like, "Whoa, my page is getting wet. Like, where's this water coming from? It's like dripping." Oh shit, that's me.
Is that on the watercolor?
Yeah. Watercolor. Literally, there's probably some pages that have my tears in it. No blood yet. Definitely.
No.
Sweat and tears mean you're literally meaning sweat and tears, right?
Yeah. So do people still get in touch with you because they want to give you more stories about people that were in the 442nd? Is that something that people can contact you now if you're still wanting to continue stories of this?
Oh, the stories are still continuing. The stories are still continuing. I'm still working on getting the first graphic novel ready. What sort of happened is, after I took this initial stab at it and kind of put it out there on Webtoons, I learned what the story meant to other people, right? Because I had been working in my own little cave, my artist cave, without communication to all of these organizations. And once I learned that they were so excited that someone was trying to authentically tell their story, they started calling me, like, they started referencing me as like, "Oh, thank you for being a spokesperson. Thank you for standing up for us. Thank you for." I was like, I'm just an artist. Like, what spokesperson? When did I put that hat on? And that to me is a lot of responsibility. And it was a responsibility where I didn't want to simply say that I learned everything through the internet.
Yeah.
So you still doing the webtoon? You still doing the webtoon?
I will be, but I'm focusing right now on getting. So the webtoon will probably be about 70% of the first graphic novel. So I'm reformatting the webtoon right now into a graphic novel, and I'm adding on a little bit more, because once I learned that people were calling me a spokesperson, I went and doubled my effort into proactively doing as much research as I possibly could, which meant personally visiting the internment camps. I just came back from Camp Amache, and
wow.
Right. So actually going there, putting my feet on the ground, actually going to France and visiting the small towns that the 442nd fought in. The fact that there are still foxholes that they probably slept in, walked similar paths to the battles that I'll be putting into the comic. Talking to the mayors of those towns and that still celebrate the 442nd.
But family members, were you able to get a hold of any of the family members?
A few family members. The challenge is that there have been people that have come to me and have gone, "Oh, this is so cool that you're doing this." Both of my grandparents were 442nd veterans. They survived the war. I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Is there any story that you can share with me? I'd love to be, I'd love to put this in. And if there's a story that you share, maybe there's a way to put their names in or anything. Many times they'll just go, "Yeah, you probably know more than I do. They never talked about it."
Wow. I hope there's more families out there that have more information about their loved ones that were in 442nd so they can reach out to you.
There are some that have given a few pieces of information. I've actually met a living veteran last year.
Wow.
I would love to hear. I would hear to know more about the Korean guy, and his family.
Yeah. Unfortunately, young old Kim is no longer with us.
Of course not, but I would love to hear from his family.
Oh yeah, I mean I would too. So he's a very interesting character because he refused to wear a helmet. He would often get fined for not wearing a helmet because he said it affected how he thinks and how he could. It was annoying to have on his head, so he always just wore a little cap. And what the stories say and what people say about him was that he had a photographic memory. He was an incredibly smart and intelligent for a soldier, and so when he saw a map, he knew the map, right? When he saw orders and he can see things that were happening, he would just remember them. So this photographic memory was just kind of his superpower. He didn't like sleeping in foxholes. He would just sleep against a tree, and he's like, "If it's my time, it's my time." Wow, that's gonna be. So he was a very interesting character.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I would think too, like going to visit these places probably gives you a better visuals of how to like draw them and things, because you could literally think of things from different time period, but being in there, it gives you a sense too of like emotion and like all of the history that's like in that one spot too. So you could really bring out some really cool artistic things happening just from being in a location yourself.
Yeah, when I first went to the forests in France, where the majority of my story will take place, seeing the textures on the trees, the extra moss that was hanging, the foliage on the ground, it was just something completely different than what I kind of had in my head. And I thought it was just, the Vosges Mountains, which is the location in northeastern France, was like the Appalachians. So I had a lot of references from the Appalachian Mountains. I've traveled there a couple of times. But you're right. There are little nuances, little differences, small gradients and colors and things like that. It was much more colorful than just green and dingy.
Yeah. So I really think your art style really, really helps tell the story of this too, because you have such an expression with your artwork. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The color choices that you use, like, it's just so gorgeous. And I think it is something that people just need to see. And if you just want to go view it, I have the link pinned above. I'm going to pin it right. I'm going to paste it again one more time. You could go and just go ahead and read several of the chapters. Because how many of the different chapters you have on the Webtoons right now? Oops.
Say that last part again.
How many chapters do you have up on the Webtoons right now?
I think there's like 10 or 11 right now.
10 or 11? Yeah, there's a lot of reading material. You could go through it and really find out about the 442nd on there.
Yeah.
I really hope people go and check it out because it looks absolutely just phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you. It's really a primer as to why their story is important and to kind of help people a little bit with the history to kind of get into it. Because if you're coming from a point of kind of zero, where I had never heard of the 442nd before. I knew of the internment camps. I knew that it was very unfair and it was very challenging. But if that's sort of the basic basis that you come from, you had a day or two in high school history where you talk about the internment camps. This first part of the webtoons is kind of there to calibrate all the readers so that we all come from a similar place.
I think it's lovely, and I really can't wait to finish reading it because it looks so good. I also can't wait to see what we're going to do with the graphic novel, because I would love to see that just spread out on something that you could open up and read in your face, because I'm very much a physical media person, very much. And we have a question from somebody. Are you still twitching? Very good question.
Physically or
both?
I was twitching earlier in January, and then the shows started happening. And I've been meaning to try to stream a little bit more, but a combination of health and other projects where I can't quite show what I'm working on kind of took precedence. And that's the hard part of streaming, when sometimes you're working on some work for publishers, is that you can't show it yet. And so while I might be working maybe at my table for 6 or 7, 8 or 10 hours in the day actually painting, it'd be quite easy for me to just turn on the cameras, but I can't show that stuff. Or there's a deadline. When there's a deadline, and being on for streaming and trying to be super efficiently productive do not go hand in hand.
Yeah.
On your webtoon,
definitely hard.
Do you have a lot of, I mean, I understand it works like a YouTube. You have a lot of people following?
On my webtoons?
Yeah.
To be 100% transparent, I have not looked at the stats on my webtoons. It's just been one of those things where it's just like, don't look, don't know. People tell me they've read it or looked at it. I let people know. I know people take screenshots or take the QR code. But when it gets to that, I'm like, it's out there. That was the goal. Don't deliberate on how high or low the numbers are, because that's immaterial to kind of getting things done. There was I'm a big kind of sports fan as well, which doesn't always go hand in hand with being an artist. But there's a fun little nugget of information I just learned about Michael Jordan, who said he didn't like looking at the scoreboard. He no matter how big they were up by or how big he always wanted to play at a high level. So he never looked at what the score was. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of what I'm doing with putting stuff up on Webtoons. I have no idea what the score is. Hopefully people are reading it.
Cool. That's fantastic. I think it's doing fairly well for being on Webtoons, especially with the genre that it is compared to some of the other genres of books that are available on Webtoons. I think it's doing pretty well. So we already got way more views on it since I've already been posting the link. So I hope we get way more happening on there. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And the only thing I try to do is to reply to a few comments here and there every once in a while. I'll go on and just look at some comments. And
are your story on your graphic novel going to be exactly parallel to the webtoons, or as you're telling the story, you're doing more research? Are they changing?
So those are two good questions. I will always try to update the webtoons. The story of the webtoons and the story that's in print will always be the same. One might come out earlier, one might come out. Right now, the webtoons is out earlier. But when I get the printed graphic novel done, there'll be artwork in the graphic novel that isn't on webtoons yet. but I'll reformat it. The goal is to make sure that the story stays free and accessible on Webtoons. I think it's an important story, and I want to remove as many roadblocks from access to it, right? Yeah, you have to buy, basically search for and buy the graphic novel, but you will always be able to read it on your phone and get a similar experience, right? Some of the words might change, some of the images might be shifted a little bit because of the format. But one of the goals is to make sure that the younger generation has access to it. And if I can get on their phones, if I get on their tablets, laptops, whatever, that prevents a book from being banned.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Your artwork is still watercolor and all that in the Webtoon as well?
Yes, it'll be mixed media. Certain scenes might be watercolor. Others might have some ink in them, while others might still be might still be in the pencil stage, depending on what feeling I want to evoke. So I'm allowing myself to go full mixed media, depending on what the scene needs. There's a few scenes that I'm working on that have a bit more in depth into the battle, that I'm paying a small homage to, like Frank Miller, just really hard, blocky ink shapes kind of a thing with negative space, and just really, kind of playing with the art style that best fits what's happening in the story. Right.
Very nice. I like that.
Forgive my ignorance. I haven't used Webtoons, so that's why I'm asking how this is.
Oh, yeah. Webtoons is on your phone or on your tablet. It's basically digital comic.
Yeah.
The other question that you asked was, is the story changing? And I have a great example of this. 2024. I am telling the story of the rescue of the Lost Battalion, right? Where there is a Texas unit that was caught behind enemy lines that was eventually rescued by the Japanese-American 442nd. During that rescue, 4 Medal of Honors were earned. And so one of the things that I'll be doing is to make sure that I go and touch on the stories, at least, of those 4 Medal of Honor winners.
Oh, this is so interesting. Wow.
One of them goes by the name of Robert Kuroda. He was the first person during this rescue to earn the Medal of Honor, but he also died in the line of duty. Right? He basically sacrificed himself to save many, many others. And that's one of the reasons why he won the Medal of Honor. And as a writer, something that happened so early, I wanted to portray it in the right way, right? He was a very important leader within the 442nd as well. But I had done a lot of research. I had done some research on him. I started trying to create his character both visually and in writing. And then after like a month or so of setting up some of his scenes, I go back online to confirm some information, to confirm some of the research. And all of a sudden, I see on the front page of Google, which is really weird, a bunch of new articles about Robert Kuroda dated from this past year, right? From that year, I was like, you're doing research in World War II. You're used to looking at articles and blogs and everything from years and years and years ago, decades ago. All of a sudden, the front page of Google is all modern articles from the past few months.
Hold on. Are you using any of the online, like a Google Docs or ChatGPT to write your scripts?
No AI, but research. Like sometimes Google throws me some AI. Yeah, I'm not using any AI to write this stuff.
No, even Google Docs. I mean, like something that goes out on public, because if you're writing your script on those things, you will become a kind of, they may scrape your information,
Everything is private if it is. I do have my scripts are written everywhere. I have so many different apps that only I can kind of keep them organized. A little bit of ADHD on that point. But Robert Kuroda, it's a whole bunch of new articles. And I'm going, what?
That's amazing.
Why is he all of a sudden so popular?
Yeah.
And it turns out that during the pandemic, there was a Frenchman who lived in the area where the rescue of the Lost Battalion took place, right? Where the fighting.
Wow.
And this French person went on long walks, right? We did this during the pandemic just to get outside because we were quarantined.
Yep.
And he bought a metal detector. He decided, you know what? I'm going to buy a metal detector. And just long walks, right? And he would find bullet shells and compasses and metal, and all sorts of random things. And then one day near the end of the pandemic, he finds this ring, right? And he looks at the ring, cleans it up a little bit, and it's a class ring. So there's a year on it, and then the name of a school. And on the inside is inscribed the word Kuroda.
Oh my goodness.
And he starts trying to figure out, it's not really easy to read. So he eventually looks it up and goes, oh, this is the ring from the Medal of Honor winner, Robert Kuroda, because he went to the same high school, same year. It must be his ring. And he gets in contact with the descendants of Robert Kuroda.
Oh my goodness.
The descendants happen to live in Hawaii still. And it took a while. He contacts them and they go, hey, don't mail it to us. If you do have it, we will come by one day and we will meet you and we will pick it up personally. We'll figure out how to do this. But when the world gets better and everything else, and so finally they did. And that's where all these new articles are from. He handed it back to the descendants and family in Hawaii. And then he followed them back to Hawaii. They invited him back. And there's this amazing connection between these French little villages that were liberated by the 442nd and Honolulu and Hawaii, because Hawaiian Japanese made up a large part of the 442nd.
Oh my goodness, this is so interesting.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
So a lot of these articles were first time in 75 years that the connections have finally come back around, and now there's a connection again between these two small towns. And these small towns literally still to this day celebrate annually the day they were liberated by the Japanese Americans. Right? Not when the Allies did it, not the U.S., but specifically the Japanese Americans 442nd. They're very appreciative of them. They remember them.
Wow.
While many of us here in the States do not.
Wow, that's awesome. There's actually Tank is actually knows something about the 442nd. He says all the members of the 442nd were made sons of Texas, the most decorated unit in World War II, a key factor for the human rights changes in the U.S. Yes, you're super interested in this series. I love hearing that you guys are for that because
believe it or not, Texans, right? They were honorary Texans because they rescued the 141st. The 141st was a Texas unit that was caught behind enemy lines. They were literally thought to be unable to be rescued, hence why they were considered lost. They were a lost battalion, not because we didn't know where they were. They were a lost battalion because they should have been written off. We lost them. They got demolished.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, after the rescue, some of those Texans were like, why'd you come after us? We thought we were gone for. We were prepping in our own heads that we would not be rescued. So we were just fighting because we're Texans, kind of a thing. And that by itself should say a lot, because they're, and afterwards, after that rescue of the Texas Battalion, they became honorary Texans.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself because it sounds like my mic is the one that's echoing. But if I have a question, I have a question right now. Is that what was my question? These people who are celebrating, I Are you going to try to contact that family in Hawaii?
Some of them are aware that I am working on this comic. One site, as the audience gets older, right, that is interested, they kind of require it to be in print. They're not used to, like, I can tell them it's on their phones and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
They don't quite get it. There's so many people that are like, I want to read it, but I just can't read it on my phone or on my tablet. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get it in print and then you'll have to. So once I get it into print, I am looking at making some appearances in Hawaii, either at the veterans organizations there or something like that, as well as to have a little bit of vacation to make sure they have access to the book. So yes, they are aware that what I'm doing, and hopefully once they see some of it in print, they'll be like, oh, he's serious, because right now it's just a guy from the Midwest talking about it.
No, that's fantastic.
Well, let me know if you need assistance.
Yeah.
I could use some vacation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, that's funny, but yeah,
my trips to Hawaii are tax deductible because it's research.
Yeah, it's research. That's right. It's business.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool too, because my family has a really big military background as well. They are a lot of the wars that they were in, and I think that's something too that, like, even if you are in military or grew up on base, like my ex was on base, so I spent the last 10 years or whatever on Fort Meade. So you get to know a lot of these stories, and you see people from a bunch of the different wars that are still there, and it's really fascinating to hear these stories that are probably going to be lost if we don't keep really telling them, because it's been decades at this point. It's been a lifetime for some of these things, and it's really needs to get out there and keep really telling it. Like you said, it wasn't on the website anymore, so it's fabulous that you are carrying on the legacy of these people and putting it out there.
Yeah, that's one of the more interesting statements that I hear when I do conventions, is that people see my banner and they'll notice that it's soldiers and war and World War II or something, and they'll stop by and they, oh, what's this, a World War II thing? Like, okay, cool, like I'm in, like my family is a military family and everything else. And then I'll tell them about it, and I'll talk about the Japanese American segregated battalion and everything else, and they go, oh, I didn't know they existed. I didn't know that was a thing. And so being a military family doesn't sort of preclude you from being aware of the of this unit. What I find, and this is, I think, something that's an important thing to mention, is that as I travel across the US to do shows from LA and Seattle to Kansas City and Iowa City and Chicago, and then Atlanta and Washington DC or wherever. And then Washington DC is a little different. Connecticut or something. As I cut across the gradient of the US from west to east, there's also a gradient that I notice of people who have heard or don't hear about it, right? And to me, the big thing is whether or not there are monuments, whether or not there are statues, whether or not there are remnants of this history that are still around, right? If you go on the West Coast, there was in Seattle, there's a new medical center that opened up called Okubo Medical Center, right? And even that alone, you're like, oh, what's Okubo? Like, who is this person that it's named after? He was a medic from the 442nd, right? So simply having something like that gives people the opportunity to stumble across these stories.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's an internment camp in your state, or a museum that has something to do with it, is important enough to give people the opportunity. That was one of the things I was extremely mad at when I stumbled across the story, because I was like, how could I? One of the things I went through a little introspection, and how could I have stumbled across this story sooner? Were there opportunities outside of me like knowing what to search for? And in the Midwest, and in Chicago, if I didn't have Japanese friends, the odds were extremely low, right? Because there's no history for me to stumble across. There's no monument, there's no statue, there's no plaque on a wall or on a sidewalk that says this is where people were taken to the internment camps, or this soldier is a Japanese American soldier, right? The only thing that I kind of stumbled across in my history, my own personal history, that I possibly could have done a little more research and looked at was because there is this movie known as The Karate Kid. And in The Karate Kid, there's this character we all know, Mr. Miyagi. And his mythology and his story is that Mr. Miyagi was a part of the 442nd.
Oh, really?
And if you remember, in the very first Karate Kid, Daniel-san creates this box to display his Medal of Honor from the war. The war wasn't the Vietnam War, it wasn't the Korean War, it was World War II.
Wow.
And it was his Medal of Honor from World War II. And they never say 442nd, they never say World War II. But if you look at the box, and for a few frames, it says 442.
Whoa.
They don't say it.
Way.
That's awesome.
In Cobra Kai, they go back to see the gravestone of Mr. Miyagi. Again, they don't say anything. They don't mention the 442nd. They don't say the Japanese. But when you go to his gravestone in Cobra Kai, it says veteran of 442nd in there.
Yeah. You're blowing people's minds right now.
Trust me, I know.
I gotta go back and rewatch Karate Kid.
Yes, go back and watch that scene where Daniel-san and Miyagi is drunk and saying bonsai, whatever. Is Miyagi's wife and child died while they were in the internment camps.
Oh, wow.
While he was away fighting for his country.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? It's all coming together now, right?
Yeah.
This was the only place that I can go back to in my history where I was like, there was an option, but the media never gave you something to clasp onto other than a couple frames. They never really say it. They never really say World War II. They never really say, they might have said camp.
But I gotta watch all those movies again, and I gotta watch the
we all know the exact scene.
Yes.
We all do. But now that I said it, you will go back and you will frame by frame, and you will see.
Gotta go watch this again. Yeah, it's also kind of really shocking, especially with how many people were decorated inside of this battalion, that you don't really hear too much more about this. Like besides, you said Karate Kid, like a couple other things, there's not really much. And you said that they removed from the website, which is terrible. I don't like it when people take history away from that, especially that's something that is honoring a whole group of warriors that just helped so severely in a tough situation. That's incredible that happened.
Man, I would love, you know what? I would love Mr. Miyagi's story going back to 440.
Oh,
that would be interesting. Oh,
so for the people who are viewing this, there might be a cameo in my comic. Only by a certain Okinawan karate sensei.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. That's amazing. I absolutely love that. Hold on.
Yeah.
People
like
get the comment.
Yes. Secret with all of us on this channel. Okay.
So there are you're absolutely right. You kind of mentioned before, like they're so decorated, and how could we have known about them or other things for it? And this is the other part that kind of got me very agitated as I started learning their story. it wasn't like this unit was highly decorated. They got a lot of medals.
Mm-hmm.
They got the most, right?
Yeah.
They are the most. That's number one, right? They are the most decorated unit of soldiers in U.S. military history. And for a country that lauds, that praises, that, you know, that is so proud of their military, every Super Bowl halftime, every parade, anytime we have a public thing, like a moment of silence to honor our military servicemen and members of blah, 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 blah. We've seen this and heard this so many times throughout all our lives, right? As a country, we're, you know, and to not know that the most decorated were a minority, I think would mean a lot to people. Right?
I think so.
Would say a lot. What begins that conversation of changing minds, and begins that conversation of realizing that immigrants, that
that makes me
are American too, and have fought.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me
blood and knuckle.
It saddens me to think that our majority, not the minority, majority of us cannot handle, that's kind of the truth. And, it's a minority that represents this, it's this minority that represents highest honor. Does it hurt the ego of the majority so much that it cannot be presented? That minority cannot be presented because that would hurt the ego of majority. Why is that not even ever presented? It really would test to America to say, hey, even minority could be high of us. I mean,
well, I think I don't know if it has any. I think it has less to do with ego. Like there's a part of me that's like, yeah, their ego is so. I believe it's less to do with ego, and more to do with, at least more towards the modern day. It combats. It's the opposite. It's the antithesis to sort of that migrant story of them not of being an other, right? If we have to admit, right, it's not being so proud of who we are, but if we have to admit that, a minority can fight for this country with such honor, let's put it that way too, honor and distinguishment and veracity, ferociousness, so to speak. While they are being persecuted by that same government and choosing to fight, I don't know if you can put yourself in this situation, right? Your family has lost everything, taken away by the government. Your home, your car, your farm, your business, whatever you're pursuing for the American dream, right? They've taken that away. They've moved you into the middle of nowhere. And one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to visit a lot of these internment camp grounds, like where they were, is because they literally are in the middle of nowhere. I have to fly into an airport and then drive 4 hours. Right. And this 1940s, that's 4 hours today. What was it in 1940? I have to drive 4 hours away to get to the middle of nowhere. I just came from Camp Amache in Colorado. The nearest town still has only 900 people to this area.
Wow.
Then it was under 500. The nearest town was that. This is how small they were. You're in this situation. In Camp Amache, in the summers, the heat would get up to over 110 degrees, and in the winters could get under -20 Fahrenheit, right? It's really
brutal.
super challenging.
Yeah.
For anyone to live in, much less live in literal barracks put together that in a rush, right, to survive in.
Mm-hmm.
Under those conditions, you've been there for a year, your family's lost everything, your grandmother's come with you, your little brother, your little sister, 5 and 6 or 7, right, don't know any better. You're in this situation. And then the government, the same government that put you there, goes, hey, you want to fight for us? You want to put your life on the line for this country? We won't do anything else for you. We're just giving you the opportunity to fight for us, right? It's not you fight for us and we let your family go. It's just you just get to fight. Yeah. You get to put your life on the line. Every time I think of that point, right? Because that's eventually what all this history to me distills down to, is making that decision to still fight for your country while your country will not fight for you at all, will ignore every single right that you have. Due process, 1/16 Japanese was enough to put you into a camp if they could prove it.
It's terrible.
And you still want to fight for this country. And they did. And they became the best. That's what this history, I think, makes people eventually come down to that one point, if I could distill it down, is that decision.
Here's a question for all the patriots out there, okay? All the patriots, whether you're a minority or, majority. This is a question for you guys. If you consider yourself a patriot, I asked this question before, and is if the United States becomes the United States is no longer number one, will you and you have to fight for this country, will you still fight for this country? And some of the answer I got was that was a posing question. One answer was, oh, we will never be we cannot handle being number two. We'll never be number two, right? It's like saying, I'm not willing to answer that question. Is that I'm not willing to answer that question, or is that being are you being delusional? Because anything that goes up comes down eventually, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, United States will not stay forever number one. That's near impossible given history, right? Mm-hmm. Everything that goes up will come down eventually. I'm not trying to talk down the United States or anything like that, but are you willing to fight for this country when it's not number one country? And and that's the question I asked, because when the country abandons you, are you willing to fight for this country? His question is that question is, to me, is like how much you love this country, right?
Yeah, I think it's, and I think this is a question that many of us are trying to figure out now for ourselves, and it's not fight per se. I think do you still believe, right? Do you still believe in this country enough to fight for it, right? Independent of what and I think that's the distinction when these men in the camps, right, were making this decision. They believed in the country independent of the government. Right. The government's doing this to us. They knew it was wrong. There were those that said no, like, I am not going to fight for this government, right? But then there were those that said, I will still fight for this country.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a line and a barrier that many of us are sort of dealing with now, that these men had to deal with at such an extreme polarity. Right.
Yeah.
And and they said yes, and they did it for a variety of reasons, right? Some one of the men that I got a lot of information from, his name is Michael Yaguchi, and he was a Japanese American veteran, not from the 442nd, but much later, and his uncle was a member of the 442nd. And when he asked his uncle, "Hey, why did you fight?" His uncle, kind of with a smile, said, "Well, because it wasn't there, because it wasn't in the camps. I couldn't be in the camps anymore." So on one hand, there were some that just fought just because they couldn't stand being in that camp. On the other side of that spectrum, just to give you the boundaries of where their decisions were, there are some letters that were written that I've read, and interviews afterwards where people were like, "We knew as Japanese Americans that World War II eventually would end, right? Eventually, and if it ended and the Americans," again, read through what the Americans went, and if the Americans looked back and said like, "Hey, we won this World War," and they would point a finger back to us, and they would say, "And you did nothing to help."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so there were a bunch of people that basically said, well, we're not going to give them that opportunity to do so, to go into the future and point a finger at backwards and go, "Yeah, you did nothing to help. You are not an American because, yeah, ignore the part that we locked you up in a camp, but you didn't do anything to help." And so these men were fighting so that couldn't be said in the future.
Yeah. That says a lot because they didn't have anything.
Yeah. Right. And so you have these extreme ends of the spectrum, from extremely idealistic. I don't know how you can still have that mentality in that moment. I can possibly understand the other one where it's like, I just can't be in this camp anymore. But you had that whole, from dissenters to the absolute idealistic, and everyone fought for their own reasons, but that was one of them.
It's truly amazing.
Super interesting.
That they, yeah.
I mean,
it's really amazing. Especially
how many books got out now? How many books? How many books?
I'm working on the first graphic novel. Hopefully, it'll be ready for print sometime this summer. How it gets out to people will be a different process. Whether I start talking, whether I have some conversations with publishers or distributors, whether I kickstarted, whether I just start manually, personally doing it, I don't know. But I'm hoping to get to that point sometime this summer to have a 140, 130, 150 page book ready to be printed.
I would very
That's
much
one of the first three. So out of all the research I've done, at first I thought I could tell this in one graphic novel.
Yeah.
But it's kind of grown, and I want to tell the story. I want to create a story that goes through the history instead of just a illustrated encyclopedia article. There have been some of this in comics. People have tried to do that before. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, right? Is that there's so much to say.
Yes. That
to create the full story needs so much more room, as opposed to just putting some beautiful illustrations and using a bunch of captions to kind of like,
No, you are so fully invested in this story, in these people that are part of this 442nd, because you're kind of the only one with a voice for these people right now.
So
and
thank you.
Yeah.
So to see some of these, we have to go to Webtoons now.
I know.
Yeah.
Is that right?
What was that, Nam?
So
wait.
The stories, we have to go to Webtoon.
Right now, if you want to read the stories, you have to go to Webtoons. I do have a 30-page printed reformatting of some of those of some of the first few episodes on the Webtoons. I have it in print, but that right now is only available if you see me at shows or pick them up in person, or host me on a podcast, and I'll send you some. But the reason why I haven't put this 30-page printed comic, out because I know if I do, I'm going to spend so much time just packing and printing and putting it and mailing and taking trips to the post office. No. I'm like, I need to work on it. So find someone who's going to be at a show that I'm going to, or something else like, or host me on a podcast, and I'll make sure that you get one.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh,
what kind of show does he go to? What kind of show you go to?
Oh, it's funny you should ask.
Yes, please tell us. Yes, the art is fantastic.
End of the month, I'll be in Dallas.
I have friends going there.
I will be in Heroes Comic-Con in the middle of June.
Oh, man.
I'll be in Denver Comic-Con Fan Expo in beginning of July. And then Terrificon in Connecticut, Chicago, Fan Expo Toronto, Dragon Con in Atlanta, New York, London, Malta, and
you're going all over.
Yeah, you're going all over the place, and then possibly a stop somewhere in there to Hawaii once I just try to.
So hold on. So you must have other books to sell, other art to sell at these cons besides promoting your books, right?
I do have a lot of other art that I sell. I also do commissions at shows. I also have prints. I have some watercolor prints on Japanese rice paper.
Wow.
handmade rice paper. Fantastic. So it's kind of adds a bit of authenticity to it. And I'm just getting into. I have some of my art right now on some silk prints. Printed on.
Those would be lovely.
Yeah. Tell me you're gonna do wood prints as well.
No wood prints yet. But I've done some silk printing. And with the watercolor, it looks pretty cool. And it's been something I finally found someone who does the silk printing very well and can transfer my art to it. So it looks beautiful.
Wow.
Hey, God, I want to highlight a couple things that we had from chat earlier, and
sure. Yeah, I saw some things pop up.
Yeah, they're all fascinating. I know. I did just post a link to your actual website, which does have a store to any of the prints and anything that you could purchase from you in there. So you can go ahead and do that. And a JSS.
Oh, and I also have a Patreon. If you want to follow me on Patreon, support this process. The Patreon specifically for the 442nd. And has allowed me to do things like travel just specifically so I can go and do research in the middle of nowhere to visit some of these internment camps. It also really helps my funding to get to France, to some of these small towns for that as well.
Let me see.
Is that on your Patreon before, but you be first. Okay. So.
Well, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. It's probably on your, let me see. I think it's on your, where's this at?
It's best is on my Instagram profile. Yeah, if you click on there, or let's look up Tony_Moy on Patreon, I believe.
Okay. I'll link that when we're done out of here so that I can put that on here so you guys can go and check that out for sure. I also love that you have, wait, is this it? No, that's Ko-Fi. Where's more? I'll link this all down below, but I do want to highlight a couple of things that we have in here because I also want to go to your Instagrams to show off some of your artworks. We haven't even gotten to that yet. Let's see. JSS. Yeah, it's just so much to take in. I would love to have you come back here.
But just shut me up. Just shut me up. Because I keep on asking a question. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm here for.
Keep coming. That's why we're here. That's why. Listen, I immediately saw you. So when I've known you for years because I've seen your watercolor. I fell in love with your watercolor. I had no idea you were working on this project. And the first thing that I saw when I was at Motor City was your giant backsplash for the 442nd. I was like, this is interesting. I want to know about that. That's why I started talking about you. I invited him on here last year to come on to be on AAPI month at that con at Motor City last year. I reached out to him back then.
Good job, K-pop. You're wonderful.
But no, I think it's fascinating. I would love to have you back. I want to have Carl Choi back again. Go through all this stuff,
sure.
talk more about this because we have like 6 other group of co-hosts that are on with us. I would love to do like a later one because a lot of them are on the West Coast side. So we could do a late night one sometime, fully get into this. I would love to have you and Ryan on a show one day because you could really get into some stuff because he might actually have more information about the 442nd because his family was in those internment camps at that time.
Oh yeah. Like
there's
so much
to have that. Yeah.
And I'll be doing some more panels at shows specifically around this topic as well, where people can ask more questions. So this is all preparation. So ask your questions and.
Ryan, I need to bring Ryan in here too, right? You know?
Yeah, we need to get Ryan. I swear, we need to get Ryan for sure. And Otaku would love this topic as well. This is from JSS. He asked us a while ago. Is that your office, your workspace, or is that your filming from behind you? And I love that. E-Man is like, I love your green screen action there. Yes.
That is my artwork. My office is not this clean at all.
You know what's funny?
This is the office like at its best.
Yeah. There's a lot of artists that are, I think it's hilarious, is they take a nice one when it's all clean and they use that as their green screen drop background. If you take it down, it's like all like, just listen, if I move my chair, it's a disaster back here. We don't want to, look back there.
Yeah.
But there was some really good.
Also the most flattering angle and everything else as well.
So you cannot point at things and say, "Hey, what that painting is what?"
No. This one here is my TMNT Naruto cover. That is that is Smallville. There's Superman's cape on there, right? So there's Superman's cape on there.
There you go. Now I love Superman.
Yeah.
Which is also fantastic seeing you get to do some covers and stuff too, because I am very much a fan of that. And I spot your artwork a mile away. When you know how you flip through the FOC, you can spot. So I'm like, I know Tony. This is interesting here from Tank because Tank has known a lot of information about the 442nd.
Ooh.
Cousin of your grandfather was one of the Texans rescued, and the father of the Shotokan sensei of mine was. Wow, it's amazing.
Oh wow, there are some interviews of either veterans of the 141st, the Texan Texan battalion.
Yeah.
But what's interesting sometimes is on YouTube when there are these interviews is to look through the comments, and there's and you'll find some comments of people who are descendants of the 141st and going like,
amazing.
I would not be here if those Japanese didn't rescue my grandfather.
Wow. I love stories. See, those are the stories that I love.
And it just kind of gives you chills, and they'll talk a little bit about that. But inevitably, whenever you see that on YouTube or you look through the comments, and there's always the comments actually are also some of the places where I've gotten some information from time to time where they'll mention something. I'm like, oh, I should look that up. Like, oh, I didn't think about it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. So like that's that's one of the unsung resources. How do you do a bibliography on YouTube video comments, you know?
Oh, that's fantastic. I really love that. I think it's really cool too, because a lot of people kind of buried their family history. They didn't want to talk about it. It was too, because there was a comment in here too about the PTSD from just hiding. Like people didn't want to talk about that kind of stuff. Like my uncle, you know, if there's like we kind of like push that side of our family away just because, you know, it just brings up like a lot of bad trauma for us. But something that I think you need to really talk about this stuff, because if you don't, then it just, especially if you try to like remove certain aspects of history, if it's out there and you know about it, you don't repeat those kind of things down the road. You know what I mean? You need to kind of have it out there and talk about things and get that out there.
The best sort of description that I'm hearing for some of the things that are happening today, history doesn't repeat, but it echoes, right?
Yeah.
And
so true.
When I start like, so they're definitely, after having all this information from research, from reading perspectives of people in the camps, letters being sent home and back and forth, there are so many things that are happening now where for instance, Gaza, was described on in the news for a while as the largest open air prison, or the largest open air something or other. And I've heard a similar description of internment camps and concentration camps, right? It's just, it's open. It's an open air. You know, I don't know, a bunch of people. I can't remember what it was, but there were some things where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, ding, 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 like trigger, like go. This links to this. This links to. I've heard this before, and that was trying to refer to as a concentration camp. Even the word internment camp is sort of a euphemism for what actually happened, right? It wasn't just you were interned. That was sort of the older term, but in the more modern historians are trying to change the name, so to speak, or the vernacular, and refer to what we are currently calling internment camps as concentration camps. And what the concentration camps that were in Europe with mostly Jews, they're kind of renaming them in the lexicon death camps, right? So those are like death camps. Then you have concentration camps. Internment camps is a much lighter phrase to use for what was happening. They were concentrated. They were put together. They couldn't leave. Those were concentration camps. And so you'll hear flip-flopping back and forth depending on articles that you read, whether it refer to the 10 concentration camps of Japanese Americans in the US. If you read more modern history, history research. So it's pretty interesting.
I think that's very fascinating about history, is because most of our families weren't here. Well, words, yes. We all came from somewhere else. Like majority of us, we all have different history, and it's amazing to me when you go, especially in different areas, like what people in the cultures and things went through. Like New York was famous for all kinds of different cultures coming in there, but it's something that I think more people need to talk about, because a lot of people too, I think, are kind of forgetting the cultures that they came from. Especially they kind of let it go. But I think it's really fascinating when you get down in there, because that's really what makes a people. And I love seeing that. I think there's something beautiful when you see different cultures, and I think they need to be respected, and they need to be put out there. They need to be shown. And I think that's what's fabulous about, like, especially like YouTube and these kind of things, is you can do that. And that's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have experiences now, not just information, right? The internet used to be like, oh, information at your fingertips. But we do have access now to experiences at our fingertips, so to speak, right? You mentioned YouTube, and people are posting up more vlogs and personal stories. TikTok is kind of the same way, kind of on a slightly more micro level, to kind of see what these experiences are. I started following this one Asian girl that has a thick Southern accent from like Arkansas, where she grew up, and it's disconcerting, right? To visually see a very Asian person, and they're speaking in one of the most quintessential U.S. accents, right? There's no other accent around the world that kind of sounds like that. That's that Arkansas Southern, like, Southern U.S. kind of accent, and it's very interesting to hear her experiences. Right? She was like, I was too Asian to be considered anything else. And I know I have this accent. But also I was also seen as faux Blasian, right? Because she was a darker skinned Asian, and people thought she was, not the porcelain Asian skin, but also had black in her. But she was like, no, I'm just Asian. But I was also called black at some points because they thought I was black. And so it was like, oh, that's a very interesting experience to grow up in sort of a small town as a full Asian, and not being seen or being misconstrued to other minorities that you're like, I don't have that experience, So I think you're absolutely right. Having stories, this is why, like sagas from Norse mythology and where they're passed down verbally, right? those are the things that I think we need to create for bits of history that are important to either not repeat or important because we should learn from them, right?
Yes.
We all know of the story of Paul Revere's ride, of George Washington crossing the Delaware, of the patriots that survived Valley Forge in that horrible winter, right? There are these stories that get passed on because we are human. And if they're just facts and bullet points, then that's just school, and we throw those into short-term memory, and then we forget it once we leave that semester, right? Like, so
yeah,
those are the things that I think that we need to try to remember or focus on or share, right? To share those stories. Now that I've given bits of this history in a little bit more of a story form, people are able to talk about it and talk about these stories. And I've seen people come back to me the next day, even from a convention, and kind of tell me, oh yeah, I went out after the show yesterday and I had a bunch of friends. We went out for drinks and I was telling them the story that you told me about the story of the Japanese American, and it's already branched out and reached out. And so,
this, the idea of this country, that's what's something that I'm not willing to give up. The idea of this country. I'm not saying it is this country, the idea, the spirit of this country, what it should be. Tony, you mentioned that you're Chinese American.
Yeah.
And you talked about how Korean Americans or Japanese Americans, all three people, or three type of people, will not, in a normal circumstance, be like not trusting of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in United States, we get to ignore that. We get to we look past that and say, oh no, this is a fellow American. And the idea of this country is such a. I don't think we got there, but the idea of this country is such a great thing to,
aspire to
and defend, and because where else can that happen? I mean, could like say, could I go to Korea and have this kind of idea come to fruition? I mean, possibility. I mean, could I go to Japan, China, or some Arab countries, whatever, and anyway, I just
I think that speaks to sort of the challenges that we're kind of seeing. The U.S. is built on that dream of a mixing pot, a melange of different cultures that kind of come together, and it is one of the very few countries, I think, that have that to that degree, right? Where in Japan, what percentage are other races and cultures? It's mostly Japanese there, right? In China, if you're a Black person walking through China, people are going to stop to stare, not necessarily in a bad way, just because it's so rare, right? They're like, oh my God, let me touch your hair, you're a Black person, right?
Yes.
We do have a little bit of that responsibility to, I think, aspire to something better, and we, without getting too political, are seeing the repercussions of some of those challenges being pushed back towards us in a way, right? And it's it's a bit of a wave. You know, you take a few steps forward, a few steps back, a few steps forward, hopefully more steps forward than you do back. But you know, I never quite thought that a project that I was working on could be so timely. And you know, I started this a couple of years ago, and I am more encouraged than ever to try to make sure that it's nice. No pressure, but I you know, to get it right, kind of a thing.
I mean,
and so
you should be happy that it's a very meaningful.
Yes. By all means. And I am glad that I stumbled upon it at, you know, maybe there's a part of me that wishes I stumbled upon it a lot earlier, but whatever it was, I stumbled upon it at the right time.
You might have not been ready to tell that story yet, because you're also writing it. So this is probably the best time for it to happen, because this is something that you're really looking forward and getting into. And I think you should be proud of yourself for putting that out there, especially something that really didn't have anything to do with you, and you're getting this out there, and you're letting people know something that is not out there really for people to hear and talk about. So that's really awesome. And listen, this is my 3rd year helping out with the AAPI. I've had people ask me over the last couple of years, why am I even helping this out if I'm not Asian? That doesn't matter to me. I'm helping out, one, because Asian cultures has always been part of my life. I have an older brother that's half Korean. I actually rescued Nam the first year to help with an interview one time. I don't care. If my platform reaches more people, I will gladly have you guys on anytime to help and get these artists out into wherever it needs to go. We currently have had 95 people watching us the entire time that we've been on here, and all the platforms that we're on, 96 right now. But no, I will continue and gladly do that, to just have a platform for someone to come on and talk about things so it reaches more people. I don't care. Like that doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
To your point on what you're doing, and you know, there's a key letter in the AAPI, which is the second A, which is American, right? That you don't need to reply with anything else. Like, at the end of the day, that's exactly what you are, right?
Hey, Angel, you contact either one of us, K-pop or me, if you want to be part of the conversation.
Well, if you want to be featured, yes, come on in. That's what I love about this is people can just get featured for, you know, because we also do we haven't really had any this month, but we do cosplayers and fellow co-streamers on YouTube or wherever else that you have a stream on. So yeah, come on and check this out. Yeah, help out, because America,
right?
America. Yes, exactly. Yes. Didn't I have you on before? I'm pretty sure I had you on already, because my brain is dying right now. I'm so tired today that I can't. I'm more than certain I have had you on already. But yes, exactly. I would love to show a little bit of you. I know we got really serious for a hot minute for a lot of things, but I would love to show more of your artwork off, because that's what I know you for, is your watercolor. Which, dude, I got into watercolor, I think, because of you. One with Bear and Ned.
Oh yes, she is so good. I love her.
Oh my god, I fell in love with Nen's artwork at Baltimore Comic Con in 2015. I think I sat there mesmerized by her just painting nonstop, and I was like, oh, I need to try this. Listen, I've not gotten to the swirly woo-woo business of watercoloring yet. That still evades me, but I will get it there. Yes. See, listen, I know my peeps out of here, but yeah, let me go show your actual screen for a minute so that I can go and share some of your artwork, because, dude, I love your artwork so much. Where the hell? Okay, there it is. Oh my goodness. Listen, trying to find some stuff on here is literally not the best thing sometimes. Here, let me make us really tiny so we can really get into your artwork here. Oh my god, what did I just click? What the?
Oh, that was a little video. I don't know.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I clicked a thing and it just put all my thingies down at the bottom on top of all of us, so I can't see what I'm actually looking at in StreamYard. Thanks, StreamYard. Here. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it on that one because I can't. It moved all my stuff around. Great. I hope I refresh it and then it'll show things. But yeah, I love watching people do art. I could sit there and watch this all day long. especially watercolor and painting. I don't know what it is. It's just so fascinating to just sit here and look at this. It's so cool.
I mean, I see that process every day. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Oh yeah, Joey down here. Listen, Joey has been phenomenal watching Joey too. He's better and better at his art. Is so fantastic, so good. I love watching his stuff. But yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, Twitch has been so cool. Yeah. So good.
This video is if you want to.
There's us. Oh, here's a promo for your Fan Expo Dallas. Yes. When is this? Yep. When is Dallas? Isn't that coming up soon, I believe?
Yeah, end of the month. End of the month.
Last end of the month. Of May. Yeah. Nice. I know there's a bunch of people I know that are actually heading to that, so this is cool.
Oh, you did a comic book day in, nice. In Denver because I had a gallery show in my first gallery exhibition in Denver. Specifically about the 442nd. So I took a lot of my original art that I had for the comic and was able to create a story in a gallery space with it. So that was super fun. And while I was in Denver for the art gallery show, I also stopped by a comic book shop and did some free art for a little while for Comic Book Day.
Awesome.
And those are some of the art pieces I've done for Marvel Snap. Watercoloring looks so hard. There's a secret to build up. the goofy tongue-in-cheek reply I often have to that is like, well, the secret trick to watercoloring is just to put the right color in the right spot.
Easier said than done. Yes, isn't it, dude? It's so much fun. That's what I love about art streams. You kind of get really inspired by other people that when you're on panel. Because I miss doing my actual Twitch art streams, but it was so fun to be in a little community that you're just doing art, and then people are like loving it, and then other people start doing art because you're doing art. It's fantastic. I love seeing that.
Yeah, I think what made that Twitch art community in part, a major part of it was the ability to raid. And that's something that I think not many other platforms have, is because if someone came and raided me, I wanted to, return the favor. And so I would check to see who else was and like raid someone else.
Exactly.
And that gets you in touch with other artists and getting a chance to see them and making and networking, so to speak. That was what made Twitch.
Yes. I want to say, I haven't. It's been about 5 years since I actually did art streaming on Twitch, and I came here to do more of these interviews and things over here on this platform. But the ability to raid, the ability to host somebody, I don't know if they do that anymore. As you're not even doing anything on TV, you can just host somebody. So if somebody goes look at your channel, they can watch somebody else. Yep. To me, it was more of a community trying to build each other up.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's definitely, to me, Twitch was the most ideal. Yes. Twitch Creative was the most idealistic version of social media.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't like, oh, these are my followers, or I'm going to keep them, or, whatever.
Right?
It was like, no, I'm going to share. Oh, this person does amazing stuff too. You might like them. And it was such like, I'm gonna scratch your back, and if you want, you can scratch mine, but it doesn't matter. I'm throwing out love into this ether.
I remember we would go and we would put like the lowest watch people in the art community on. Then we would either raid them, we would go in there, we would do everything that we could to get them to an affiliate within the week so that they can start making money on Twitch. Yeah. To me, you don't see that anywhere else except for on Twitch. That camaraderie is interesting. Yeah. I have actually met people in person that I have known maybe 10 years plus on Twitch. We still get together to this day to go to cons.
Yeah. I remember I'd be like, oh, let's find the lowest viewership for watercoloring. Let's find someone who's doing watercoloring that has a super low viewership. And then we dump my 50, 70, 80, 100 in there, and they'd be like, oh my God, what's happening? And it was so cool.
It's fantastic. So I love all of that.
It was the most altruistic social media platform.
I miss it. I love it.
Is there a coins over there? Is that a coins popping out of that telephone box?
Yes, yeah. There are some quarters on top of the. You remember you would put coins on top of the phone, right?
Yeah.
If you're
I
gonna,
didn't mean to age myself by noticing
I know
that.
you aged.
I don't think most people today know what a phone booth is unless you're playing Fortnite.
Right.
This is actually good too. I actually met Kev on Twitch. Dude, I don't even know how many years ago that was, but I can't wait to actually meet Kev in person sometime because he's been a true friend to this day. I love Kev.
Nice.
Very good question. How much are your preview books at cons? Or if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they want to purchase one.
Yeah, I think I have it right now at $20 and $30 if you want me to do a sketch in it. I have a little blank page on the front page, so if you want to sketch, it's $30. Most people do that because I priced the next one at $20. If you don't want to sketch, so technically it's $10 for the sketch, but really I'm just trying to help. I've put it out there for so long that I haven't been able to kind of fund the project. Last year was especially challenging because I got a chance to work for Marvel Snap and a few other publishers, and it was hard to find the time to do the 442nd because I had to do the art that was going to pay my bills. I know it's like first world artist problems, but I was like, I can't do the art I want because I have to do the art that pays. And
Superman,
so I couldn't find the time. Yeah, so I couldn't find the time to do that.
Spaceboat people. Superman is a spaceboat people.
Yeah. Well,
and so I'm trying to get the project to help fund itself is the goal. So hopefully when I get the first book out, it sells well enough that I can start putting off and saying no to some of the lower level projects that definitely pay my bills.
Yeah.
Right, Tank? Sure. You got me. Pay your bills.
And then you're looking through your work and it seems spot on to the record. You're adding this to your kids' reading curriculum. Whoa, that's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I love seeing that kind of thing. I love that. But your artwork is just so good. Look, there's con stuff. I see some people. That's amazing. Look at Kabuki, David Mack. Yes. Oh, look at that move. Is that Mudang? Yes. Like that. I love that. But yeah, your artwork is just so good. Like it has like this picture here. It has soul to it. It has like the emotion that you get from these characters and their faces just from the way that your brushstrokes run. Yeah. And I love that. Yes.
I was so happy they mentioned this project to do a Bob Marley cover like last year sometime. And then it finally came to fruition at the like December, January. And then I actually worked on it in February. And man, was it cathartic to go through his lyrics and to put them on. And if you know anything about Bob Marley and his lyrics, it's very, anti-war peace and stand up and freedom and stuff like that. And it was definitely cathartic to put out all my frustrations into this piece and, get up and stand up for your rights,
So do you carry that stamp with you? That wooden character stamp?
Yes. I have a stone stamp that I carry with me to conventions, and I have a jade one that I keep in the studio.
Wow. So if we ask for your signature, you'll get that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't work on anything shiny though, but for cotton paper and stuff like that for artwork and prints.
Yeah, I would purposely buy non-shiny.
Yeah.
I was just thinking a lava foil in a metal. That would have looked insanely good on a lava foil. Oh man,
there was
just the way that the lights and darks are. Yeah, that would look so good. Oh, I love that you go to WonderCon. That's one of the ones I really want to go to one of these days. But it's just so good. I love your use of colors. Your lighting as well is absolutely fabulous.
Oh,
so good. Really, really beautiful work. Yeah. Oh, it's really
cool. Love it.
Yeah, that Daredevil series was awesome.
I like looking down here and see who's already liked it. I see D down there. I see Joey. But yeah, I love that. Oh, we got a lot of good peeps up in here. I love Mog. We just had her on. She's so nice. I adore her
she is.
so much.
She's awesome. I love her. Very energetic and free, like watercolors. Like the thing with like
so good, yeah.
With watercolors, there's such. I think that there's a much wider expression on how to use the medium, so to speak, versus something like acrylics or oils, where everyone's trying to finish it to a very similar level and degree. But there's a much wider experience, I think, when it comes to watercolors. You can be.
It's so fun. Yeah, it's freeing, but also really, really nerve-wracking at the same time.
Who's the opposite supposed to be? The giving the badge.
That one's. So during the rescue of the Lost Battalion, the general who was responsible for the battalion getting lost was named General Dahlquist. He was, by all measures of the, by anyone, an asshole, if I can say that. Right? He was not liked. Years after World War II, people would salute him. They would tell him that, yeah, I'm only saluting you because I have to, not because I want to. He was an academic general, very little battlefield experience. His whole goal was to become the first general to break into Germany, was to get his troops into Germany. Because of that, he pushed the Texas battalion too far ahead, and that's how they got caught behind enemy lines.
Wow.
The rescue of the Lost Battalion, the rescue of those Texans, actually from start to finish took a little over a week. And during that week, they made the news. So they're actually, you know those old news reels that you would see before a movie or whatever else. Their plight made it home, right? So people were kind of like, "Oh my God, what's happening? Those Texas guys that are caught behind enemy lines," and it was part of the news back in the States. However, well, and that was also why it was very, very important that the Japanese Americans were the ones to rescue them, because they were also, because of how much news and publicity was given to the Lost Battalion, that was also given to this 442nd unit. When they were rescued,
fantastic.
When the 442nd rescued those Texans, General Dahlquist, who was very egocentric, knew that this was all over the news. So he wanted all of the Japanese Americans, all the 442nd, to line up because he wanted to give out those medals. And he pulled the Commander Pence of the 442nd, and so told him, like, hey, before you give any leaves of absences or put them on break, I want all the soldiers, all the Japanese Americans, all the Japs, right, quote unquote, in line, so I can give the medals out, because he knew that would also make the news. So the Commander Pence, literally some of them were walking back from the fight, and they're like, hey, go, I know you're tired, but like, go line up, go line up at Reveille and whatever else. Like, we're going to do the full presentation. And so these tired, exhausted Japanese Americans that had just lost so much, standing there in the cold, right? It's late October, early November, so it's chilly out there. They're all standing at attention. General Dahlquist comes marching out, looks out across the field, calls the commander of the 442nd over. So, Commander Pence, I thought I told you that you weren't supposed to send anyone else on leave. All of them were supposed to be here. And Commander Pence just looks at him and goes, sir, this is all we have left.
Oh my goodness.
During that rescue, the Japanese Americans rescued 212 soldiers of the Texas unit, 211. But they endured over 800 casualties of their own to do it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Right. And they had already been fighting for 6 or 7 days before that. So there were casualties. They were already a weakened battalion on top of those 800.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
So,
yes. And wants to know, when does the physical copy? Well, you already have the preview book, but you're putting together right now to put out that first volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to like break up the story into 22-page chunks. Like it just seems slightly awkward. You know, sometimes it might be more, sometimes it might be less. And so right now the plan is to get it ready for print near the end of the summer.
Very cool.
How it gets into people's hands, I do not know yet. But we'll figure that out.
Okay.
But I think the easy part is getting it to people's hands. The harder part is getting it ready for print. If I have to kickstart it, if I have to just print it myself, if I have to do whatever, we'll figure that part out.
We're gonna listen. Whatever you decide, we'll come back on. We'll have a launch party for whatever it is, and then we'll get you as many people out as possible. Let me tell you, we'll have the whole gang here. We'll get it out there for sure. But dude, your artwork is so lovely. I don't want it. We're almost. Oh man, I just looked at the time. How long we've been out here? Almost
that's fine. I'm good if you guys are.
Yeah, I'm fine right now.
I can talk about myself all day.
My guy, Jiraiya. Let's go.
Yeah.
I already liked that a year ago. Let's go. I'm glad. I love seeing this, but it's so much fun. I have like all your links down below, and I did post your Patreon link too. You have a YouTube channel that is lovely. You have a Twitch channel that's lovely. You have your what else? You have Instagram. You have your webtoons. I keep posting that on there. You have your website.
You can watch me dance on TikTok if you want to.
Dance on TikTok. Nice.
I got TikTok, but I'm not dancing.
Go to our, I don't know what I did to my. There we are. There we are. There's our faces. I hit a button and it just took all my thingies and went like this. Now I can't find anything. So, oops, my bad. You have a couple more cons you got going on because it's full on con season now. I know it's crazy.
Yeah. So. Right. The next one, Dallas, Heroes, Denver.
Yeah.
What's the one in Connecticut? Terrificon.
Oh, Terrificon. Yeah.
So Terrificon will be my first time there. Terrificon, Fan Expo Chicago, Fan Expo Canada in Toronto, Atlanta, and then New York and London and Malta.
That's going to be interesting. I love seeing how different countries take on comics because usually they have different formatting. But man, one of these days, I want to go to the giant one that's in Tokyo, the Comic-Con, in Lake Como. Holy moly. I would just, Lake Como would just be insane to me. Come on. It's like fairy tale over there.
No, for sure. Well, that Lake Como is where they filmed some of those scenes between Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, that giant scene that's on the water. Oh yeah, that's amazing. Malta should be really, yes, it would be CJ. That's right.
Yeah, I did it last year, and I think I'm being invited back again this year. The other thing that's very interesting is how people from other countries perceive and take this story of the 440.
Oh yeah.
Right. In Europe, when I've done shows in Europe, it's interesting because they come from it because World War II has a very tangible sort of history to them, right? They see they kind of see
I mean, they were the front. They were the front.
They were, that's where they fought. So there's this general interest in things World War II-ish, especially if it's something that even they didn't know yet, which is, a Japanese American battalion. It's interesting to have to explain sometimes, like, hey, are you at the start of a conversation of, hey, are you familiar with what the US did with internment camps with the Japanese Americans? And if they don't, well, I have to hit that first because that kind of sets a foundation for why the Japanese Americans are so, why this unit was so special. They have it impacts a little bit. Sometimes they'll get it like, oh, well, that's America. Why am I not surprised? Right. And you're like, oh, okay. Sometimes they do know it. Sometimes I'll be at a country like South Africa that went through apartheid. Right. And their experience with racism and races is very interesting as well. And there was a lot of interest in this book when I went to Comic-Con Africa in Johannesburg as well. Like people were like, oh, that happened in the US. Oh, but you can tell that there is a slightly different empathy. There's a slightly different empathy in South Africa versus in Europe. And even slightly versus in Canada. Canada also had, I don't know if you guys know this, the US was so paranoid of anything Japanese. We convinced the nicest neighbors to the north, those Canadians, they created a Canadian Japanese internment camp outside of Vancouver with about 22,000 Japanese Canadians in the camp.
Oh,
yeah.
And
Mexico too.
If you say 800 people, 800 Japanese Americans were lost in the rescue attempt. When they saw these Japanese American army, what even allies, never mind Germans, but when allies, what they thought when they saw these bunch Japanese American people, in American uniform, Wait, are we being invaded by Japanese?
No. One of the things that's really, so two things. First, within the 442nd, there were white officers and Japanese American soldiers, right? And within the 442nd they had each other's back. Didn't matter if you're white or Japanese or Korean, right? They realized they were all American. And there are letters from the Japanese soldiers that wrote home. They're like, this white, commander or whatever else, like, we've only had to tell him how to pronounce our names once and he remembers it. Like they don't mispronounce our names, which is a big thing, right? It's one of the reasons why I go by Tony, because people couldn't pronounce my Chinese name and I just got tired of it. So just call me Tony. And so, but there was an intense amount of respect, both up and down the military ladder in the 442nd. Outside of the 442nd, there was some, and they had to prove their mettle, and they proved it. A lot of the higher generals wanted, as you got closer towards the end of the war, after they had proven themselves, they were like, no, we want the Japanese Americans here. We want them to fight with our units here. Here's where I'm going to go. They were desired, right? Because of how fierce they fought, right? On the other side of things, when the Germans were fighting and they saw the Japanese Americans, many of them had no idea how to take it, because they're like, I thought the Japanese were on our side. One, what are they doing here? And two, are they charging at us? Right? So they would see that. And kind of 2B, as part of that, during the rescue of the Lost Battalion, like I said, that whole thing got into the news. And it was such an important thing that even this German leader with a really short mustache was very interested in what was happening, because the Japanese American was an exact opposition to what he was spouting and on the Aryan front, right? Like, oh, Aryan, like race and culture and everything else, like we were so great. But all of a sudden there's this Japanese unit, and he wanted updates on everything that was happening with the 442nd during that rescue, because of what they represented against them.
Wow. That's
like they're talking about Canada. Big time chat happening in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They should address battalions in Japanese uniform.
yeah, you allied and do the Troy, Troy,
Yeah. There's a story in, I think it was in Indonesia. The Japanese had gotten pretty far down in the Pacific. This is in response to the comments that they said they should address the Japanese up in Japanese uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like I said, they didn't allow the Japanese Americans to fight in the Pacific theater, but they were there for interrogation, for translation and things like that whenever they caught people or intercepted messages. There was a case where there was a Japanese American that had kind of spied on a nearby Japanese camp, right? And he caught wind that they were going to attack a U.S. base of soldiers, right? They're planning to attack pretty soon. He was kind of like spying. The U.S. base set up and like, okay, if they're going to attack, we want them to come this way. We think they're going to attack from this direction, right? And so we're going to prep and make sure we lay traps and fortify and all that fun stuff. The Japanese kind of come in from a different direction, and this Japanese American spy gets kind of caught out in the open with them, right? Like, because they attack a little bit earlier or whatever else it was. So this Japanese American takes off his uniform, right? Takes off his shirt and all the uniform stuff. And so he just has the like little wife beater, the army wife beater thing. And he stands up and he shouts out in perfect Japanese, because that's what he's there for, instructions to charge the front gates or something like that, directly where the base was fortified. And so he just stands up, like imagine the pure balls, right, on this guy to stand up in the midst of this firefight and to call out instructions to the nearby Japanese to walk right in to a setup. And the base was obviously saved and everything, but he just walked right in. He convinced all the Japanese that he was one of them. So, wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
There are all these little stories. Like my job as a writer for this 442nd is not one of, on one hand, it is trying to figure out and write a story, but so much of it is figuring out what to leave behind. There's all these little bits. 18,000 medals, right? 10,000 soldiers, 18,000 medals.
Yeah.
Every medal is a story, and you're like, I can't tell that one. Oh, I'm gonna need to cut this one out, So
yeah,
it hurts you a little bit, right? It hurts you a little bit inside.
Yeah, it does. I'm like, I want to tell. They were the first soldiers to step foot in and liberate Dachau.
Wow.
Right, the second largest after Auschwitz. Imagine. And I can't tell this story either because there's no room for it. I was like, oh, maybe I'll tell it in the future. But they were the first ones to step foot into Dachau and do the liberation of the start the fighting for the Jews, for the liberation of the Jews in Dachau. If you can imagine what goes through your mind as a soldier while you are walking past the gates of Dachau, charging past the barbed wire and the guard posts, right? The guard towers, knowing that your family back at home in the middle of nowhere is also in a similar situation. You talk about fuel for writing, right? And to tell a story there, like it's there, but I had to leave that part of it behind.
Oh, well, that's something I want to ask too. Like, if somebody has a story that they want to send to you just to get more information for the 442nd, what's the best way for somebody to reach you at?
You can reach out on Instagram. Get in my DMs, slide into my DMs. That's one way. I do check my sometimes it might take a while because if we don't have a conversation going, I will eventually check those though. Or you can try my email, tonymoy2@gmail.com. But if it gets into my spam, I don't check my spam. So
nobody does
that's
that.
always a challenge.
Just mass clear those out.
yeah, exactly. So at least DM me on Instagram. I will eventually check those.
Okay,
that
nice.
very many at this point.
But, yeah, I hope way more people reach out. I hope people go to like clean out. Like that's what's funny too. Like when you go to clean out like a family section and you don't even know what's in there, then you find out all this like interesting history, and it's just like whoa. And I find that stuff absolutely fascinating. Like I love going through all my uncle's war stuff just because it's such a weird, interesting time period that any of those are in, and you're just kind of reading it and you're just like, wow, this is just mind blowing. The stuff that has gone down in those.
One of the more amazing experiences that I had was I got in touch with the Japanese American Museum. It's one of the smaller ones. And I said, hey, I'm doing this project. If you have anything, I would love to come by and see based on the internment camps or about the 442nd. And they said, sure, come on by. And they had been donated this trunk from a veteran. A veteran passed away, and he had this trunk, right? And the family donated it to the museum, and they're like, we haven't really gone through it, but I can go through it with you. And we went through this trunk, and there's a variety of things, both from the internment camps, right? And there's this one thing that this museum showed me. It was a river stone. It was just very simple. It was kind of like smooth on one side, flat on the bottom, right? It looked like it came from a small stream or something that you would find. But on the flat side, if you turned it over, someone had took the time to carve into it probably a Japanese haiku or a Japanese poem, right?
Wow.
And put you can tell if you're familiar with Asian poetry and calligraphy, you can tell that there's sort of a pattern. Oh, that's where they signed it, and there was the numbers, the symbols, the characters for a date, and it was 1942. And I asked them if they knew what this meant, and they said the translation to it is something like, please don't forget me. I am here. This is who I am, kind of a thing, kind of like just a statement of I was alive, right?
Wow.
And
Roy was here. Roy was here.
Roy was here. Kilroy was here.
Kilroy,
And what hit me in that moment was the date, which was 1944 or something. The last internment camp wouldn't be closed until 1946, about 9 months after the war. We have the luxury, and this is when I realized this, and it seems a little trite, but we have the luxury of looking back and knowing when things end, right? I can look back at this and go, oh, he wrote this in 1944. It was the spring, and he only had another 2 years to go. But to this man in that moment who wrote this declaration of being, he had no idea how long the war was going to last.
Yeah.
He had no idea that this camp wouldn't continue after the war. He had no idea how long he was going to survive or be alive or what would happen. And in those moments of history, that's what hit me. I was just like, they don't know. They don't know when it's ending. They don't know what's going to happen next. We do, and have that level of acceptance of that larger picture, right? But we know that these Japanese Americans rescued those Texan soldiers, but they didn't. They could have lost twice the number of 800 and completely wiped out, right? And that is something that I've tried to keep in mind as I go through this history and in those moments and in those points as well, is just that they don't know what's coming next.
You're going to make me wish, I hope, I don't have any historical moment to preserve because that means you're not in very good shape at the time.
Your historical moment. Your historical moment is on YouTube, and it's I like boobs is your historical moment that will forever live on YouTube.
Oh, those clips are horrible. There's so many Twitch clips. I'm just like, oh, please, why'd you clip that? Oh, no.
It's like 40 years from now, someone in your history is going to look back and there's going to be a clip of you on YouTube. Yeah. That's the best.
There's just delete those files, delete those files.
That's
those
so
Twitch
funny.
Clips will end me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are good times. But man, I've started to get really hot now. Oh, okay. I'm dying. But it's been such a lovely time talking to you. We had such a great chat. We still have 96 people hanging with us, which has been fantastic.
Oh, wow.
So
hi 96 people.
Yeah, hi 96 people. I know. We got everywhere from Nam's channel to my channel to Twitch to YouTube to Twitter happening right now. So let's go. It's fantastic.
Which of those 96 people are watching from the farthest away? Anyone watching from a different country besides the US?
That's a good question. Well, I already saw Canada. I already saw the States.
Yeah, we got Canada. Anywhere else? Yeah.
Who else is hanging here? I usually have people from Japan, sometimes Greece, sometimes over in Italy area, sometimes Brazil. So it's fun seeing people come in here. I love seeing that. But yeah, where's this furthest person from? Let's do a shout out to people in chat. I love that.
Did we make it international?
Oh. What? You could kind of say Canada is international. Maybe not. I have somebody watching in Hawaii if they're not home yet. I don't know what the time difference is there. Yeah. Shout out to them.
Hawaii's about 6 hours behind.
6 hours behind. Nice.
Or yeah. Depending, 5 or 6.
I usually have Australians. I don't see Australians in the chat, but they're usually 12, 14 hours in advance. Canada in the house is what that is. Yes. You're Georgia.
The 51st state. Got it.
Yes. The 51st state. I know. I love the chat. I know. Yeah, he could. It's be one giant. Actually, if that does happen, you're going to be broken up to your provinces, or you'll be the largest states in all of the states. So you'll have that to worry about. I know. Yeah, you're fired. You can give him the business anytime. That's what we're here for. And but yeah, go. If you guys are in Dallas, I know there's a bunch of guys that are going to be heading towards Dallas. If you guys are in Dallas, go check out.
I'll be doing a panel in Dallas as well for this. Dallas and Denver right now. I have panels. I don't know if I'm slated to do one in Charlotte yet.
Okay.
Dallas will be a solo panel. I'm trying for the first time. I'm going to do kind of a TED Talk. And then open it up for questions. So we'll see how that works. But we'll have my artwork in the background and stuff like that. So hopefully it's visual and educational. And in Denver, I'm trying to get a few other historians or experts in the AAPI realm to see if they're willing to come do a repartee with me on stage.
Very cool. Yeah, cool. I'm sure there are, because I know John Boy is going to be here this weekend. That's my first time going to be meeting him. I'm very excited about that. So,
nice.
Boy, yeah. Oh yeah, he was one of our guests last year. So, we get to chill with him. But yeah, we're branching out. It's fun. But I love inviting. I'm so very glad that you joined us. We're going to have you back on, because I really want you and Ryan to have a chat and talk about this. It would be fantastic.
Thank you for bringing Tony to us. Appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, anytime you want me back on, I have no problem. This was a lot of fun.
Sure.
It's usually when I do this, they try to. I tell them that, hey, I'm free and open. We can chat for whatever, but they always try to time box it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of like the openness and my ability to kind of ramble on and not feel guilty about it.
I would normally have time boxed you.
Thanks. But it's AAPI month and you're an Asian, so we have to let you talk. I get it.
Yeah, we had a lot of talking here too. But yeah, I've been trying to keep my regular streams to about an hour, only because I was doing like 25 of them a month. But I'm trying to cut back on those and go back to the. I know, dude, I'm so burnt out. But I'm trying to cut down on those. So after May, we're gonna be cutting down and going back to my normal regular outlook, so I can actually get back to art streams, which would be nice.
There you go.
To do that. But
well, if you want to do a dual art stream, let me know.
Yes, let's go. Listen, I will bust out my watercolors. I have a whole bunch of line art over there. I got a watercolor, and I will slap some paint on some paper.
We're gonna have watercolor session. Wow.
Yes, watercolor session. Let's go. We can get Loke involved.
I got also,
Ryan. Let's go.
My art table looks like Doc Ock. It just has like arms with cameras and microphones and lights and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's in front of me right now, and I'm on my art desk. I gotta move my stream supplies somewhere where I can actually do art on my desk again.
You have one table that is like all these things on arms and
exactly.
There's camera arms just chilling around.
Two cameras here.
They take up way much so much space. I know. But no, it's been so fun finally getting to chat with you, because I've been lurking at your streams for years. So let's go. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks to Nam and Tony for joining me and welcoming everybody for AAPI. I believe Ryan is coming up next. Ryan Odagawa. We have, I think Otaku has him on Friday, I believe. And then next week we had a move. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but we had a move because they're still traveling. We have Jerry Ma, Sean Chen, Bernard Chang with us for their Monkey King event that's happening in New York. So come check that out, because they have a lot of artists involved in that that look really amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So who doesn't love the Monkey King art anyway? So that's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful stuff.
It's so good. Cool. I know, but we're gonna get out of here. I need some food. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely need something to drink too. But thank you guys for getting out of here. And you said you did TikTok dancing, because that's what. I don't have an outro, and we always spaz dance on out of here. That's right. That's right. That's what we do here. That's what we do. That's how we roll out. Bam, bam. Thanks, you guys, for being here. Thanks for everybody for being here. Thanks for we're at 104 people now. So thanks to those.
Yay! Hi, 104.
But bye, guys. Check out all the links below. They are pasted all over the place, and I will definitely keep linking your book around, especially when it goes to a launch or whatever you're going to be doing.
Yes,
with it.
please. Thank you.
I want to get that out there. But let's go. Let's get some food. Let's go relax for a hot minute, because I'm dying. It's so hot right now.
and a beer. First round's on me, guys.
Let's go. We're going to get this going. But bye.
All right.